This is EOS M, Canon's first mirrorless camera that was released in 2012 to a very mixed reception. Launch price was about $800 for different kit sets, and 1 year later price was reduced to $600. Now it can be found for $200–250, usually with a lens. Reviewers and journalists thought that it's too little too late, little both in terms of the size and technical contents. And general consensus was that Canon should release it earlier, maybe with more advancements, as it happens with their products quite often. But users loved this camera. I mean, look at it. It's small, it's pleasant to use, and it has one of the cutest shutter sounds. Of course, it has a lot of limitations, some of them due to its age, some because of its size, and some were there by design. Let's talk about all of it. EOS M launched a whole year before Blackmagic's original pocket camera, but I would say it has similar build quality. It's very dense and solid and doesn't feel plasticky at all. And compared to our original pocket, it's shorter but thicker. I like how it feels, and it's also very comfortable to control with one hand. Menus are well organized, and you have a wheel that's also clickable like a D-pad. Or you can use a very good touchscreen. Even by today's standards, it's crisp, bright and very responsive. But at the same time, that's all physical controls that you have. As you can see, there isn't much space for additional buttons. There is even no traditional shooting mode dial, just a switch between video, photo and photo with auto settings. Which is fine, and I guess that's what 90% of its target auditory will use. Because in principle and size this is a point-and-shoot camera, but with interchangeable lenses and internals from a real DSLR. EOS M has 18-megapixel APS-C size sensor and Digic 5 processor. They also can be found in Canon's 650D, also known as T4i. So the color science is nice and pleasing, and also you can enjoy so-called hybrid autofocus system, which is a mix between contrast and phase detect autofocus. It's not as fast and accurate as dual pixel, but it has an object tracking mode. You can take raw pictures or various flavors of JPEGs with a maximum resolution of 5100 by 3400, or even both RAW and JPEGs at the same time. Maximum burst rate is a little bit over 4 frames per second, so it's not exactly a high-speed monster. And again, 18 megapixels is still enough resolution in a lot of cases, especially if you pair it with nice lens. And you have some choice. There is no mirror, so flange distance is small, which means you can adapt a lot of vintage glass, or any Canon EF lenses, even if it looks a bit ridiculous and unbalanced. Or you can use native EF-M options. Yeah, about that. This camera has EF-M mount, which is good in theory, because not only the camera itself became smaller, but lenses also could be very compact. The only problem that there was not many of them. At launch you had only two options, 22mm f2 and 18–55 with floating aperture and optical image stabilization, the classic kit zoom. Later Canon released 6 additional lenses, and also Sigma Mate 3. But there were no primes with image stabilization or zooms with constant aperture, which could be very helpful, because sensor here is fixed and not very light sensitive. Alright, before we move to speak about downsides, let's consider the time period and state of the market when this camera was released. Sony's A7S II or 5000 lineup didn't exist yet. Their current offerings were A57 and NEX6. Panasonic GH2 was 2 years old and still was selling for $900 body only. GH3 was released couple of months after EOS M for $1300 body only. Also, DVDs were still popular, and most common laptop screen resolution was 1366 by 668. But anyway, video from this camera is soft. Yes, technically it has Full HD resolution, but it seems to line skip or bin pixels, or both of that things. As a result, you can see a lot of moire and diagonal lines shimmering, and the image overall feels softer than 720p from your phone. Also, there is a lot of compression artifacts because of a low bitrate. Image looks incredible on the camera's screen, or in editing preview, but viewing it full screen now reveals all the flaws. Although it would be less of a problem in 2012 because of the low resolution screens and brutal YouTube compression. Also, if you remember this generation of sensors, then you probably know how light hungry they are. Because you will see noise at 200 or even at 100 ISO. At 400 it will be very noticeable even in relatively bright areas. Built-in noise reduction tries to do its job, but sometimes it creates colored streaks, blocks and lines. Ergonomically, there is no EVF, screen is fixed and the grip is small, but I can't call that a downside. It's all what this camera is about. There is no sense in making it bigger or more complex. And as I said in the beginning, I personally like it. It's fun and simple with some additional options that you can change with touchscreen if you really need or want. It might become a future classic. It doesn't have a lo-fi digicam CCD look or film-like filters, but it has that mid-2010 Canon look, which is also something. At that time, Canon was riding high on the popularity of 5D Mark II and C300. Those cameras were everywhere. So a lot of magazines, ads, sports, commercials, events, documentaries and shows was made with very similar look. I think soon it might become very nostalgic. And besides that, it is an interesting option if you like to take pictures with something other than your phone but don't want to carry around anything big or expensive. Also, I need to mention that you can install a custom firmware for this camera called Magic Lantern. It gives you a lot of additional functionality, adds some higher bitrates and even allows you to record raw video. But all of that comes with new set of restrictions. In some modes preview is lagging or showing just part of a picture or very skewed. With some settings you can record only for a few seconds and so on. It's good for tinkerers and enthusiasts and was very impressive some years ago. But the Digic 5 is an old processor and only can do so much, especially in a small body. And now if you want more resolution or raw video, you have way more options than back in 2012. So if you're curious, then yes, look up Magic Lantern. It is very interesting. But even without it, EOS M has a very special place in my heart. Which I guess another example of that not every camera should be perfect or praised by reviewers and professionals. Sometimes camera just needs to be good for you, personally. Yes, I wish that EOS M could record high resolution or higher bitrate video or had a less noisy sensor, but I bought and sold many other cameras that are newer, technically more advanced, and yet this tiny old camera is still with me and I'm still enjoying it and I'm getting a smile on my face every time that I'm shooting with it. After all, what's the point of using someone else's perfect camera if I have this? Thanks for watching! See you in the next one. Bye.